I don't think many creationists appreciate that the very fact that all extant and extinct species can be objectively classified in a consistent nested hierarchy at all is itself almost incontrovertible evidence that they arose via evolution. That's because mathematically the only known mechanism for generating such hierarchies are branching evolutionary processes. This in itself provides the creationist with the opportunity to, if not formally disprove evolutionary theory, at least propose a serious alternative to explain this pattern. All our grown-up wannabes need to do is describe an alternative process that produces such hierarchies, instead of spending their time less productively by belching out lies by the ton and flogging strawmen as severely as their limited intellects allow. I, for one, though, am not holding my breath. In addition, it's often underappreciated how quantitative phylogenetics actually is. Since Willy Hennig first proposed placing the discipline on a quantitative level by classifying organisms via their shared derived characteristics or synapomorphies, it's become possible to produce objective phylogenetic trees by computationally maximizing the number of shared characters while minimizing the number of conflicts. It's for this reason that cladistic methods identify bats as mammals, with which they share the vast number of characters, and not as the birds that the ignorant goat shaggers who wrote the book that you're desperately trying to push as unquestionable facts seem to think they were. The fact that using these methods on hundreds of morphological characteristics as well as independently on countless DNA sequences generates essentially the same cladograms once again screams to anyone who hasn't got their head firmly lodged inside the sweaty crevice between their buttocks that evolutionary processes are at work. So AQ. It should be pretty clear from this that it's perfectly possible to falsify evolution by identifying an animal or group of animals that conflict irreconcilably with this hierarchy, and you can forget about what you said regarding evolutionists using whatever interpretation best fits their model, because this isn't a matter of opinion, it's a matter of statistically quantifiable and verifiable reality. So rather than spending your time sharing your opinion by verbally defecating on my comments page, I strongly suggest you instead either go and find such evidence, or shut the fuck up. ERVs are inherited in the same way as derived characters and DNA sequences and can therefore be used to generate phylogenetic trees that are concordant with those produced by sequence and morphological analyses. Again, finding patterns of ERV distribution in known or newly discovered species that conflict with this pattern will pose a serious problem for evolutionary theory. At present, GenBank, the worldwide repository of DNA sequence information, contains over 100 billion base pairs and is growing exponentially at a rate of about 20 billion a year. It seems to me, therefore, that rather than wasting your time sharing your ignorant opinions on YouTube, you'd be much better off investing it in searching this freely available and rapidly growing database for sequences that conflict with the evolutionary model. And if this seems like a little too much effort, then perhaps you'll instead just shut the fuck up. One of the underappreciated aspects of both molecular sequence and morphological vestiges and of atavisms is not only where they appear but also where they don't, because their distribution within the species fits into the nested hierarchy with remarkable consistency. In other words, both atavisms and vestiges appear only in lineages whose common ancestor possessed the characteristic in question. Conversely, they've never been found in groups that don't contain a basal character from which they were derived. As a result, we have never seen bones or their remnants present or appearing in invertebrates, nor cellulose walls in animal cells. In contrast, we found teeth and the genes that drive their development in birds and observed humans born with semi-functional tails. Thus, evolutionary theory predicts that we will never find, for example, boobs on boas or tits on toads as either atavisms or vestiges, because mammary glands developed only after the appearance of reptiles and amphibians. Your task, AQ, is therefore relatively simple. All you have to do is find a taxon or two that contain members that bear a vestige or have been documented to produce an atavism that could not have been derived from a character in a basal ancestor, and you'll have hammered a seriously big nail into the coffin of evolutionary theory. Of course, I don't really expect you to do any of this, because the track record of creationists is to smugly sit on the sidelines rubbishing the work of others, while making up outrageous lies or retarded hypotheses instead of doing what's actually required to back up their ludicrous and infantile little claims. After all, that's so much easier than getting a relevant education, doing some actual fucking work, and taking the risk of proving yourself wrong. Isn't it, AQ? So now that I've explained some of the ways in which it could happen, if you don't intend to do any of these things, I really would prefer not to have to read any more of your ignorant and deceitful opinions, and would respectfully like to ask you to please just shut the fuck up.